I got the Echo 355T finished up, and I got it all cleaned up, washed up real good. That is very, very important. You don't want to do all that work and have some debris left in there and ruin the cylinder or rings or something like that. So make sure you clean it up real good. My ultrasonic cleaner is not quite ready to go yet, so I took it in the house and washed it in the sink with some dish soap and scrubbed it down real good and made sure that everything was good and clean. And now we're going to start to reassemble the motor. It's pretty cold out here tonight. I can see my breath. Trying to keep everything clean as you're going along. Lubricate things as you go along. That way you don't have a dry start. And all right, make sure you get everything oriented right also. As you can see on this piston, it has a little arrow on it right there. And that arrow needs to point toward the exhaust. And I would say it needs to point to the exhaust on 99% of your stuff. It's the flywheel side. There. My exhaust is on that side. Alright, so I know that my cylinder sits like that in the saw. And I know my flywheel's on that side. So here's my flywheel side here. My clutch side here. And I know my exhaust port is over here. So that means that piston needs to go on oriented just like that. And on this particular saw, it's got these little spacers. And they go on just like that. So you set your bearing in first. You put a cap on one side, one of these caps on the other side, and basically it's just a spacer. And then the bearing will help hold those in place for you while you insert your install your piston. It's a good idea to put a little bit of oil on your wrist pin and get it started on in the piston. With everything being pretty cold. And there you go. Slides in nicely. Don't forget your little clip there. Just to hold that wrist pin in place for you. Handy to get a pair of these little small pliers Stick that in there and make sure it sits in the groove. The piston has a little groove that clip is supposed to sit in. Make sure it's sitting in it. You don't want it coming out when it's running. That will get hung up, and it will just tear up everything you just did. Getting low on RTV. I use the black RTV gasket maker. It works really well. I've used it for years on stuff like this. 4 strokes and 2 strokes. And it's made by Permatex. That's all I use. I keep some of the red around too for the high temp stuff. I don't use nowhere near as much as that as I do the black. Dry it up on me a little bit. Yeah, there. Excuse me. There we go. And what I would do, right in these bearing pockets, your bearing sits on the inside, your seal sits toward the outside. Just put a dab of that and just smear it in lightly. You don't have to gob it up because you don't want it plugging stuff up on the inside. Same way with there. Rub it in there a little bit. Just take your finger, smear it in lightly. Remove any excess there is any. And on the bottom side, do the same thing. Put a bead in there and a bead in there. You should be good to go. Don't need a whole lot. You just need to seal things up, not clog the stuff up. And you also need to put a bead of it across here too. And a manufacturer, they use a a silicone also, an RTV type silicone. It's a different type. I think they use some kind of gray. Well, like I said before, I've been using the black for years, and it works just fine. No issues. You clean up the excess. With this stuff here, a little bit goes a long ways. And you can buy this stuff anywhere. Most of the time I get mine at Walmart. Do most of my shopping there anyway. Just go to the automotive section and pick up a tube of it whenever I need it. All right, let's get this ring back on. Now on your piston, on these two strokes, you've got a little pin in the side of your piston. Not sure how well you're going to be able to see it. Right about there, there's a pin. And you line your ring up with that. And you'll see that on the ring. Not sure how well you're going to be able to see that. But on the ring, yeah, it's kind of hard to see. But the ring has some little cutouts in it. It's not square on the ends. But the ring's got to go on a certain way. Just line all that up with that pin and just roll that ring right around. And it'll pop right on there for you. We're going to lubricate the skirt of the piston. Up around the ring land. And we're going to put a few drops in the cylinder. Now, a lot of these cylinders are tapered on the bottom. And they'll close that ring up for you a lot of times on the way in. It'll help guide everything in. And there you go. Well, drop the cap on. And we're just going to snug these screws up. We're not going to tighten them. We're just going to get a little bit of a squeeze out on your RTV. I personally believe that we don't want to tighten this all the way down and squeeze out a lot of the RTV. So I always just snug it up till I get a little bit of a squeeze out, and I just let it sit overnight, at least a couple hours at a minimum, and let that firm up, cure up a little bit, so that way we don't risk squeezing a lot of it out. Excuse me. And you still have some of that left behind. And I'm going to let that sit. Excuse me. Probably all night. And I think I'll go ahead and put that intake tube on while we're right here. Everything seems to be turning good. Cool. Doesn't seem to be any hang-ups. You know what? Maybe not. that one. Clean this off good. Always keep a little bit of alcohol around. Cleaning surfaces off. Yeah, squeaky clean. That should already be clean enough. I'm going to put a little dab of that on there just to back it up, although this rubber flange does have a little lip on it. Just give it a little backup. It's nothing worse than having to tear something back apart because you had an air leak somewhere. Especially on a top handle saw like this where it's not so easy to work on things and get to it. Like that. I think these are the ones. I might have to go back and look at some video, but I think these are the ones. Excuse me. All right. So we got the motor for the most part assembled, ready to go back in. I actually might have to take that bag off. Yeah, I gotta take that bag off. Gotta go ahead of myself. But yeah, for the most part we've got it together. I just want some of that to cure, and once everything cures a bit, which will be tomorrow, and go ahead and tighten everything down, torque everything up. There's really no spec for it, just snug it up good. And then we'll be ready to slide it in, and then we can put the intake boot on, start getting the handle back together, flywheel, clutch, stuff like that. And I think I will do a mod on this intake housing. I'll probably cut these out. That way I got a nice wide open area to breathe through. And I think that's probably going to be it for the induction. Yeah, I don't need to do a muffler mod. I've already done one, and this muffler is a good muffler. It's gutted already. It came from the factory that way. There was nothing in it. So we're good there too. The only other thing I want to do, I want to pull these limiter caps off out of this carburetor. These red caps here, I want to get them out of there. That way I've got more freedom of adjustment. And so I'm going to see if I can get these out of here. There. I'm thinking if I get these turned a certain way, I might be able to just get them pulled out. Sometimes you can use a screw to get started in there. And take a pair of pliers and pull that. Sometimes it works, sometimes it don't. There we go. So all I did on this carb, sorry about that. So on this carb you can see that there's these little marks, or these little cutouts here in the middle, one there and one there. On this plastic tab or limiter, you have matching tabs, and you line those tabs up with those cutouts on the body, and it'll pop right out of there. there you go. So the best thing to do first is run it in there a little bit, get some threads started, take it back out, take a little screwdriver, get those tabs on the limiter lined up with the marks on the carb body, and then screw that in there and get a good bite and pull it out. Come out pretty easy. And then you take those jokers and throw them right in the trash. All right, so now I got full access to my adjustment screws here. As you can see, those caps are gone. Those caps are gone, and there's your adjustment screws right there. And I should be able to screw them all the way out if I wanted to, or screw them all the way in. Shouldn't be a problem. So, all right. That's that for tonight. Like I say, this is not really a how-to video. It's just how I did it. And if you guys would, and I would appreciate it if you would subscribe and like.